to set up a board of advisors, look for a revenue expert, which pertains to having 2 to 5 years of good marketing experience, and then as well as a design person with 1 to 5 years, as well as good communication skills. Our strategy team during the pre-launch will focus on the environment of good ethics, definitely focused on differentiation, and then plans of software teams' goals. For training and development, they'll create a system able to store case studies throughout the years. And then for performance appraisal, they're going to be focusing on the planning steps of management by objectives. And then lastly, for the pre-launch year, compensation team will be focusing on external job evaluations as well as pay system development. For year one, going back to recruitment and selection, they'll be focusing on advertisements through social media apps like LinkedIn or Twitter. They'll also be looking to select a data analytics. So they're looking for 5 years for that role, and then the team of software developers, as well as an office administrator. And then strategy team during year one will be focusing on emphasizing the importance of focus differentiation. And then basically meaning they're going to be focusing on trying to handle their customers better than the competition. And then as well as pre-planning strategy. And then for training and development team for year one, their goal is to improve employee training continuously to fit their needs. And then as well as begin identifying situations and areas that certain employees need to be trained on. For performance appraisal, they're going to incorporate management by objectives, and then employees are going to start storing and saving those client evaluations. For compensation in year one, their goal is to make employees feel connected to the organization. That's basically the vision and mission of this company. And we'll figure out contractor compensation regarding accountants, lawyers, HR, and finance. And we'll also try to keep track of the number of employees we got, because to kind of answer the question Ash had, we kind of believe that around 40 employees is the level that we want when we are going to decide to hire HR. And then lastly, for year one for compensation, the goal is to use an annual fixed fee, and we're going to need a software that can keep track of that. Going on to year two for recruitment and selection, the software program that determines pay rates for contractors completed by the software developing team. For strategy, they're going to keep records of client satisfaction and programs that determine how potential customers interact with the website. They're going to be studying how many clicks are going on certain pages and whatnot. Also for year two, for training and development, they're going to be role playing with employees and create environments and situations that they find challenging. They're going to keep track of their situations and results, and then as well as online remote training. For year two, for performance appraisal, they're going to be focusing on critical incidents and then reviews annually by the direct supervisor. For compensation, the software team is going to be continuously improving that contractor pay system, as well as stay informed on updated legal differences in Canada, then as well as internal job evaluations. Lastly, year three for recruitment and selection, they're going to be continuing to develop that software team and the website, and then solve any issues quarterly with the contractor pay system. For the strategy team of year three, they're going to be comparing client evaluations of employees from each year, as well as continued improvement of the website monitoring program. Training and development is going to be focusing on role-playing situations to continue evolving online remote training, as well as having conversations with employees to find out what they're struggling with and what they would like to improve on. For performance appraisal, they're going to continue doing client evaluations and then reviews annually by the direct supervisor. And then lastly, for compensation for year three, They're going to be focusing on possible raises and more benefits for some positions. And then lastly, they're going to ensure employees are feeling connected to the organization.
Okay, great. And you answered the question, when should he hire an HR person? You're saying maybe he's a contract person until he gets to about 40 employees.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I remember you mentioning definitely like at 100, there's no doubt that there's need of an HR. Yeah.
There we go. All right. Hey, good enough. Hey, thanks, Daniel. Strategy team, you're next. I've got this. If you need slideshow, I've got share on.
Oh, yeah, can I share?
Yes, please. That's ready.
Okay, give me 1 second. Can you guys see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me present. Okay, so this is the strategic plan by Jose Tanner and myself, Perla. So an introduction, a strategic plan examines an organization current and future environment. It develops values, vision, mission statements, and objectives to place itself favorably in that future environment. Um, Startups should develop a strategic plan to start a good environment of good ethics. An example of somebody that did not use one was Lululemon, and the owner started with no plan then initially started to sexually harass women and set up a hostile environment that it eventually led the board to fire him. Um, and it's just we start this by where we are standing now and what we want the future of the company to be. So some of the Porter's genetic strategies that we were looking at was one, low cost leadership, and it is the Walmart of the world that provides low cost goods, and it is usually implemented to profit low cost products, high volume, and greater returns to the organization. The biggest advantage is lowering operational and organizational costs across the board because products and services are sold at very low and competitive prices. This usually attracts customers because some customers prefer lower prices regardless of a toll on quality. A disadvantage found within the strategy is that um, leading with competitiveness, prices may not always allow the quality because quantity quality can be expensive. Excuse me. And then employees with professional skills and qualification will most likely look to exercise their quality work elsewhere, where they may be compensated adequately, and companies will now pay employees much more than minimum wage. So that's also a disadvantage. And then another strategy that we looked at was differentiation strategy. So this is used by firms such as Pepsi and Coke who convince their customers that their sugary drinks are better than others. It is beneficial because it is more tailored to a specific target market. And differentiating a product or service allows the organization to focus on customers that will be actively searching for or needing the specific amenities and in that specific product or service. This can backfire for an organization, however, and exclude some customers. So due to this, less potential customers may be reached, even if they would potentially purchase the product or service. And another example of this is the Neiman Marcus, which provides luxury appeal at higher prices. Um, this strategy targets customers who avoid the low cost strategy for an amenity such as quality or service, and these organizations will sell and offer quality products or service, hence selling to customers who prefer quality over low prices. And these organizations usually hire more qualified employees at higher pay, but the strategy does not exclude customers seeing lower costs or who are comfortable with less quality.
So the next strategy that we have to offer, Ash, is a focused low-cost strategy, which focuses on a market or a niche, and it's based on lower costs for the target group that's targeted. They focus on the traveling public, but at a good price. For example, and that's all the way at the bottom, but enterprise car offers a good service, but quality service, but at a good price. Advantages to this strategy are its example as the target market is responsive. So as many people as respond to it, you can reach more people. And then many consumers are attracted to purchase the product or service because the price is low. A couple of disadvantages to this strategy is that it presents only in the sense of differentiation. So only certain customers will be targeted because it is a little bit focused. Not everybody gets targeted in this strategy. And then the revenue source may be limited, and employees may not be able to target any employee desired and pay them at a competitive wage because they're offering lower prices, hence less revenue is coming in, and there's less money to pay employees and to put towards products or services. Final strategy, which is the one that we recommend for Impact Traction and for ASH, is the focus differentiation strategy, which focuses on the client and prioritizes their needs. However, it'll offer quality service. It's a very flexible strategy, which allows you to adapt to each client, but still offer them the best quality that you can, the best work. For example, MSU Denver is a good example of this because it'll tailor its needs to the needs of the student, yet offer a quality education at a good price. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be at a good price. ASH can charge a good amount he can charge a good amount if he needs to, but he can offer quality because he can adapt to each client's needs. And we do believe Impact Traction would find success with this strategy.
All right, it's like the next steps that we're going to talk about is like definitely the products and services. We touched on them a little bit, but Impact Traction's the revenue engine. It has to be designed as an app to help nonprofits or other organizations realize the vision and mission. So he's like we're saying, like you can definitely tailor using focus differentiation, all of the products and different things that he can offer so that businesses can feel like safe with him and understand that he also shares in their vision and wants to make sure that they have a custom plan that fits them. Where to start? Impact Traction must finalize its proof of concept while maintaining language that is appealing to financial advisors. Ash definitely touched on that with us when we had a little meeting with him. It's okay that he has different. It's okay that he knows where he wants to be and stuff like that, but to get investors to actually want to invest their money in that, he needs a little bit of help with that. So that's what we're trying to give him. And then above all, providing a clear and concise picture of what the vision is for the company and why investors should fund this company is key. Next slide. What's next? Secure consistent funding for the business and utilize a scenario strategy. This is kind of in a way of just making sure that in the early phase of business, it's beneficial for employees to learn from simulated mistakes. So this is just running through different scenarios, seeing what could go wrong, what can go right, and then how to pivot around any points where mistakes can be really crucial in the company. So try to minimize those the best that he can. Then engagement. Also speaking with Ash, he spoke about like the Liverpool culture, the football club. And he's making sure that the people that he hires have the same personal values as him, and then that they understand that they have a specific role in the company, and if their role fails, it's kind of like a chain reaction. So everyone just needs to know their part, and the company will be able to come together and be stronger. Have people who are good at not just everything, but are good at certain aspects, and then they're able to just produce like the best product for their clientele.
So in conclusion, we presented Ash with all of the strategy options. We do believe the best one is going to be focus differentiation because of what he strives to achieve with his products. Like we said, he aims to offer a personal focus to each client, but offering high quality. So as Tanner said, with the next steps, he probably should come up with a set of values, visions, and mission statement, which he does have, but that'll help implement the focus differentiation strategy. Everything should work jointly. And then after finalizing a proof of concept, the company can begin to recruit and search for quality employees, which will help Ash reach his goal, like the Liverpool team, working together and helping everybody succeed.
All right. Hey, Ash's question to you guys is, and I think Tanner and Jose, you were talking about that. What specific HR characteristics? In other words, what kind of people does he need to hire? So hit that again for us, Tanner, because you did a good job when you were talking about engagement.
Yeah, sure. So definitely after speaking with him, he brought the Liverpool concept, and the whole basis for that was him saying that Liverpool may not have like the biggest bankroll to hire like the best employees at the best position, but if you have people that are going to believe in your mission, believe in what you stand for, we think that you can find high quality candidates as well who will want to work for you. And then knowing your place, like they don't need to be an all-star at every part of the job. They need to be really good at specific parts of the job, and you can kind of split that up accordingly to have like your own person who does A and your one person who does B, but also knows a little bit, like so they can help each other and bring each other up. But he was saying, yeah, like it doesn't have to be the guys who cost $150,000 and they're all stars. You have a bunch of people on the team that are not really down for what his mission is, but just for the money, I guess.
Wants to buy into his vision. All right. Hey, good. We've got 45 minutes left, 4 teams. So each one of you had about 10 or 11 minutes with a couple of questions. So let's see. Who's next? Oh, recruitment selection.
Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
You got it, Emily. You're on.
Okay. So, all right. Hi, everyone. So today we're going to be going over recruitment and selection by Aya, Felipe, Nanika, and Emily. In the recruitment and selection process, it is important to create an environment for the business and the beginning core of the company. So the primary goal for recruitment and selection is to help structure Impact Traction as it starts, develops, and expands in the future. So we will go over the 5 beginning positions of the core, recruitment and advertising, interview and selection, compare experienced versus non-experienced candidates, and highlight some information on the Canada anti-discrimination laws. So first we have the core. So we have the development ops, which would be the role that is tasked with software development and coding. Second, we have revenue ops. So this person would cover the 3 main areas of marketing, services, and sales. The role would focus on website development, social media management, sales to sell the software, and marketing to its target audience. Third, we have the data ops. This role would be focused on the market research and operations data analytics to help Impact Traction make educated decisions. We have 4th, design ops, which would focus on discovering the user pain points and develop how to improve those pain points by designing a software tailored to the user's mindset. And then lastly, we have the P4 manager that took place of the integration of the CEO in the first group of hires. So this role will integrate the core team and optimize the platform portfolio by creating roadmaps that deliver growth and meet profitability targets. The P4 manager covers the 4 Ps, so product, platform, points of delivery, and projects. We also wanted to note that in addition to the core, there will be advisors who have experience and knowledge. So for example, funders or financiers, and there'll be connections to help make business decisions. There are also collaborators, which are short engagements, freelancers, and independent contractors. So they will help with short-term projects and development. And lastly, there'll be contributors, which help in areas that need a high level of expertise, such as corporate law, human resource, finance, accounting, and staffing. So really quick to go over some of the skills and qualifications for Impact Traction. We wanted to highlight the 2 most important skills and qualifications. First would be the entrepreneurial mindset. So it is driven by leadership and learning, and Ash is looking for his team to be able to do the job, but also develop into a team. So he wants smart and quick learners that are good at quickly and efficiently improving. He wants to avoid having to micromanage and wants his core to take ownership and not be afraid to innovate. And the second most important one is ethical and loyal people. So he wants people who are loyal to his idea and the future of the company. He doesn't want his company to be a stepping stone. He wants the core to be invested and committed for the long term. So now I'll hand it off to Aya, who will be talking about recruitment and advertising.
Hi. So for recruitment and advertising, we are looking to, I hope you guys can hear me. Okay. Well, we are looking to use LinkedIn. We feel like that will be the best choice because some of the things on LinkedIn, especially if you have the premium account, you're actually allowed to view people who are potential candidates. You get to see a lot more of their professional profile without having to only look at a resume and hear what they tell you. So you get to see if they have skills, if they've worked in this department for a while. You're able to see how many people have endorsed their skills, how many other companies they have worked with, the projects that they have done, how many years they've actually been in the business. And if they have a good rapport with people, then they will definitely have people who back them up on LinkedIn. We think it's more cost effective because it's about $500 for you to list on LinkedIn, list your job on LinkedIn for a month. But if you have the premium account, especially for those that are doing recruiting, it's about $119. And you're actually able to seek candidates. Candidates kind of pop up in your LinkedIn profile. So you get a firsthand look on who could potentially be your consumer. Your staff. We also feel like it's more of the effortless approach, seeing as all you need is a very detailed job description. And once you have that detailed job description, it kind of fills it out for you, as well as they have the one-click apply, so they can send over their resume easily, and you can also, see their resume, view their profile. But it's almost like you're getting information from two places. So they're being alerted that you're looking for staff, and you're also being alerted that there are potential candidates. So we think that that's going to be the best. So I'm going to hand it over to Felipe to go into our next section.
I was on mute. I did the interview and selection part of our group, and this part is important because this is basically going over basically we're choosing the people that we want to hire for ASH, and we want to ask people certain questions that will help us decide if they are a good employee to hire for the company, because we are only looking for the best people to hire for ASH so that he can have his company moving forward at the best possible, best possible ability. So we try to get answers to the questions, and we try to see the quality that would be shown through the stories or examples to help help us determine if the applicant is right for the role. So we try to ask questions as well that will apply to the company to see if they have a good understanding of impact traction and the decisions they would assumably make align with ASH's vision and values. We also ask questions to see what ideas the candidate can bring to the company that would ensure growth moving forward if offered the position. So we do the interview process so that it will allow us to see who we would want to be a part of the company and in what ways they can make the impact traction a lot better. This will determine in what ways the candidates should be qualified to help the company grow. This is important to us because we want ASH to decide who he wants to hire on and if that person is genuinely trying to make the company a part of his life and make the company better. So first we want to consider the 5. Can we go to the next slide? First, we want to consider the pros and cons of hiring a very experienced employees versus non-experienced. So some of the pros and cons we listed here are that with the experienced is they have leadership skills already developed, and then the cost of training is lower, mentor other employees, fewer chances of mistakes. They're more expensive to hire for a con, and then higher turnover risk, more traditional not feeling challenged. And with unexperienced, they're innovative, more flexible, lower wages, eager to learn. But the con is they have less skill and they have a higher chance of making more mistakes, turnover risk is high, and higher training costs. So that's it, and now I'll pass it to Monica.
Okay, so I talked about the Canada Anti-Discrimination Act, and so a quick definition of what I found was that it's legislation that prohibits discrimination based on gender, race, ethnicity, and other grounds. So it's very similar to what we have in the United States. So how can Ash use this? He can ensure that all the people that are affected by his company be equally treated right, regardless of their race, gender, or sexual orientation, or any other grounds that fall under this Discrimination Act. And Ash should take appropriate action if an employee or a consumer breaks these laws. So, yeah. So our final thoughts is that he creates an effective culture from the start with recruitment and advertisement and selection processing. The team has determined what positions will fill a core and how to most effectively recruit perfect candidates for the positions by asking them questions that fit the needs of that job instead of asking the basic questions. We must utilize the questions provided to get the best understanding for each candidate to see if they fit the needs of the company. And it's important that all positions see a future with the company and create an ecosystem for the future hires. And that's what our final thoughts were.
All right. Question that Ash had for you. He said, I like all the detail. And he says he likes your comments on his organizational structure. I'm not sure. What did you say about his organizational structure? You want to tell the rest of the class?
I think what he meant with that was like how we used his core and then also including the contributors or the like advisors, collaborators, and contributors. That might be
All right.
wrong.
Hey, good enough. Let's see. Training development. You guys are next. About 11 minutes, so go for it.
All right, so we did training development, Gabrielle, Matt, Peyton, and myself, Dominic.
So I'm Matt, and I'll be covering the intro for Impact Traction. So the biggest thing that Ash made aware to us that training provides, or the class provided for us, is that training provides skills needed to success in a career. But what's even more important than that is to continue to develop the employees that Ash is going to be bringing on to make sure that we get rid of any sort of bad habits that they might have, improve them overall, and increase their future productivity for the company as a whole. So our first topic that we wanted to cover for training and development was the mindset and culture for Impact Traction. And the only way to make that happen is to have people that are committed to the idea of making change and creating a positive change in the world. We had a little meeting with Mr. Hassan, and he made it very clear to us that he wants his employees to be loyal to the idea of helping make his company create a better social change for the world, instead of just being there for a job and to get paid and everything like that. They want to be involved with everything going on in the world.
Hey guys, so I'm Peyton. So the part that I'm going to talk about is where and how we're going to do the training and development section. So in today's current climate, I think that, well, I guess we think that it'd be a good idea to have it in online format as of right now. That just makes it easier for expanding later. You have endless opportunity for what you're going to do and how you're going to grow the business and stuff like that. It's going to be a low cost. So for right there, you're going to be saving a lot of money. So you don't have to worry about paying your employees or anything like that. You're going to have that extra funds that you would have spent on the building or the lease that you're going to be a part of. So you don't have to worry about it. You're also going to have to be able to have a global network. You're going to have employees all over Canada and possibly the US. You're going to have to work with contractors. So the online format would just make everything easier for the travel and being able to communicate anytime, any place. So we thought that would be the best idea. So that's what we're going to recommend for that. Our methods for the training and development is going to be the job rotation, the projects, case studies, the in-basket exercises, role-playing, and simulations. So just a brief little description of each. The job rotation is when an employee in one department or field would go through the different departments and just kind of get a larger experience and grasp on what each job does in the company. Projects are going to be assigned projects, either individual or group projects that individuals or teams can work on together in order to collaborate, learn each other's strengths and weaknesses, and be able to grasp everybody's knowledge and skill as a person or group. Case studies is the one that we really recommended just because it gives you more insight as to what you might be working on, what you can experience. It'll be the best sort of training we could think of giving an employee that would be working on one of Mr. Hassan's projects for him. An in-basket exercise is another one that we think would be a good idea for Mr. Hassan to use. It is a mock simulation type of training where you are pretending to be a manager and you have a bunch of things on your desk that you need to be able to take care of, and you need to prioritize each one and figure out which one is going to be most important to least important and actually accomplish what is in front of you. The role-playing simulation, or the role-playing, is going to be another type of exercise that we are a little hesitant to recommend just because of the fact that it's not for everybody. It's where you would pretend to be in a specific situation and would work with a group of people in order to accomplish a task. You might face challenges in there, but it is a little difficult to get in the mindset for it. You have to have a very select group of people who could actually accomplish that. And then the simulation would be probably the hardest for Mr. Hassan to use just because of the cost of doing a simulation. It's a little bit more difficult, but you would essentially just like the in-basket exercise, pretend to be accomplishing a specific task or job where you would go through and do things how you believe you need to do it.
So our recommendations for Mr. Hassan is that he use a combination of the case method plus the role-playing methods. And Mr. Hassan will need to write up a consulting case to go over with the employees. So from there, he'll take the new hires / his team and go through with them the entire case study. And then to him, Mr. Hassan and the employees will analyze and make recommendations as to what the case study should have done to be more successful. After this step, Mr. Hassan will need to partner with the co-founder and work with the new hires to show the typical issues that will be faced when doing the job, how a report will be developed to the client, and how to deal with the client dynamics, and how to make recommendations for that client will listen to.
Okay, so the next thing we did is evaluation of training and how we believe that we should assess how the trainings went for everybody. Our first one is action evaluations, which is based on how the trainings went and like what exactly went down during the trainings and why the trainings happened exactly the way they did. These are also a great way to see what needs to be worked on for the employees and see what the trainees need to work on and what the trainers need to work on. Because having good trainees is all about having good trainers, because without good trainers, you're not going to be able to train your employees very well. So learning evaluations are the best way to, or one of the ways that we really thought would be good for Mr. Hassan to use, because it's a good way to assess how the trainees did and how the trainers did by giving them tests and quizzes based on the knowledge that we provided for them. So these knowledge tests and quizzes will assess exactly what we need to work on in training and what needs to be added and what maybe needs to be taken away as well. Another one that we like is self-evaluation. So we can see how the trainees and the trainers are feeling about the organization and how everything is being run and how everything is being trained. Hearing from their point of view is really great because you can see what they want to work on more and what they need to work on more. So, yeah. And then what we found overall for our conclusion is that the employees need to focus on the 4 key subjects, which is the employees really need to be invested in the change of the company, and they need to be want to be there and want to make the company the best that they can. It's very key to build relationships both in and outside of the company, just so that you have a tight unit and that everyone wants to work together and you just all have a good environment for your company. We also found that growing through own experiences is a great way to learn, because people are going to make mistakes when they're first new hires on the job. And that's just the best way to learn, is because if you make mistakes, then you can learn how to improve them and how to fix them. And then finally, being loyal to the idea and mission of the company is key to this, because if you have someone that isn't loyal to the idea, then they're not really going to want to work as hard as people who want to be there will. So, yeah.
All right. Didn't have any questions for you guys. He said he liked the idea that you mentioned case method and role playing. And he says his favorite soccer coaches uses those. So, all right, that was his only question, you guys. Looks like performance appraisal is next.
My bad, I'm just setting it up. Okay.
Okay, so we are the performance appraisal team, and this consists of Aaron, myself, Bryce, Hamadi, and Luis. And to begin, go to the next slide, please. Thank you. To begin, I'd like to do a brief overview of the timeline for which we believe each of the methods that we are recommending should be implemented. This timeline begins with pre-launch, which for us consists of setting up the MBO planning steps, which are going to come after the hiring of the employees, but before any consultation with clients begin. And we recommend that management sits down with the newly hired employees and sets out the objectives for the coming years for the organization. And in year 1, you're going to we recommend incorporating these organizational objectives. Have the employees set up some type of system to save the client evaluations they get after future consultations, and begin reviewing the progress towards these organizational objectives and making adjustments as needed. In year 2, we recommend critical incidents log be started, annual reviews by the supervisors be undertaken, and team self and client evaluations post each client consultation be completed. And in year 3 will essentially be a continuation of all of the methods outlined in years 1 and 2. Next, we would like to emphasize the 3 main reasons why effective performance appraisal is important. First off, we have communication, which is the biggest one. Effective performance appraisal should essentially be a 2-way conversation. It is not only about management informing the employee about things they are doing well or not so well, but it also provides the employee with the opportunity to inform management about needs or resources that they could use to help them better do their job. The second main reason why you would like to have effective performance appraisal methods is decision making, which stems from the communication aspect or the two-way conversation. Because when management is informed, they can make more accurate decisions, such as where to allocate more or less resources and how much. And finally, we have motivation, which probably sounds pretty weird because most people, when they hear performance appraisal, they don't like it. Everybody dreads when performance appraisal time comes around. Although when it is done properly, it can be motivating to employees, because when an employee has set objectives to strive for and they're regularly reviewed on these progress towards them, they could be more motivated to achieve them. And this in turn increases overall organizational productivity. Now I would like to pass this to Luis to review the management by objectives process.
Okay. So our main focus, or mostly program that we kind of use for our performance appraisal, would be management by objectives, which is for short MBO. So it's a process in which both managers and employees set objectives for their employees, evaluate performance, and reward said employees for their hard work. So the first step in creating or following an MBO would be setting individual objectives and goals. The manager sets objectives together with each individual employee and or team to make sure what is being asked of them. When conducting a performance appraisal, it is important for the manager to work individually with the employee to better understand what is being asked of them throughout their job experience. One way of doing that would be using SMART, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, and relevant. Specific meaning your goals have to be specific. They have to be clear. They got to know what the exact goal is. They have to be measurable. You must accurately track your progress to determine whether you are able to judge if your goals are being met. They must be attainable. They must be realistic. They must be in, how you could say, quote unquote, in arm's reach. They must be relevant. They must value your goals. They must also benefit the company. Time-based. By setting a time frame, you are helping stay on track of your goals. An example or a little formula we used was to have 2 plus action verb plus measurable goal plus date. An example of that would be to minimize manufacturing emissions by 10% by the end of, let's say, January 2021. The second way in creating and following an MBO would be to provide feedback and evaluating performance. Communication is key in determining the success and failure of an MBO, and employees and teams must continually critique each other's their own performance. By providing feedback, the employee will get a better understanding of how they are to perform or what needs to be improved for them to grow within the company. Because no one wants to just stay in their, let's say, their job. I mean, they want to grow within the company, whether that is, how would you say? Oh, I totally, from the tip of my tongue, a promotion. That's what I was trying to say. So the last one would be reward for positive performance. I mean, why do we do the things we do in jobs? It's to be rewarded, right? Employees and teams' performance should be measured against objectives, again, jointly by manager and employee. Those that meet objectives should be rewarded through recognition and praise, because you want to know that you are doing a good job in your field. When conducting a performance appraisal, like I said, is important for the manager and employee to understand what is being asked from the manager so they can grow within the company. And I'm going to pass it on to, I think it's Hamadi that would be speaking on critical incident method.
Okay, so the critical incident method is a performance appraisal method in which the manager keeps a record of both the positive and negative performances of employees throughout the performance period. This must be done on a regular, ongoing basis. This is only for career developmental purposes. This won't be used for bonuses, but it can also be used for situations where you want to release an employee. And next slide. So the ranking method is a performance appraisal method that is used to evaluate employees' performance from best to worst. There's often no actual standard form used. As a manager, you'd have to make evaluative decisions such as determining who gets a raise or promotion and who gets laid off. To make those decisions, some type of ranking method is usually used. The 360-degree evaluation analyzes individuals' performances from all sides using the supervisor's viewpoint, the subordinates, their peers, the clients, and their own self-evaluation. This process generally gives the most accurate analysis of the individual and their performance within the company, but it as well is time-consuming. Supervisor evaluations are very common because the supervisor is supposed to know the level of performance of their employees. Although there are common problems that can occur with the supervisor evaluations, many times today, supervisors have little to no direct contact with their employee because they may be in different buildings, city, or even country. Virtual teams, internet-linked offices, telecommunicating, and other factors cause supervisors not to be in constant touch with their employees. Also, supervisors are as well just human, just like their employees, and they may not relate well to some of their employees, and this may cause a personal bias for or against an employee. So the subordinate evaluation may also be used to evaluate the supervisor. Subordinate evaluations may be typically used for managerial level employees. Subordinate evaluation gives good insight into the managerial practices and potential missteps of people who oversee others. As a result, the subordinate evaluations may give valuable information that the evaluator would be unable to find using any other methods. Now I'll go ahead and pass it on to Aaron.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the peer evaluations. Peer evaluations are a great assessment tool when employees are working together in groups or jointly on the same project. Peers often know the job of the individual employee better than the supervisor does, so they're usually a good choice for. They're the ones that spend the most time with the other people. But peer evaluations can cause problems because the process may be less objective than, say, a manager reviewing an employee's performance. Sometimes personality conflicts and such cause problems. Client evaluations are usually pretty good. If an employee or team interacts routinely with the clients, the organization needs to know how those clients feel about their interactions with the employee or team. Clients should come first and their priorities should be met. If they are the customer, they should be valued the most. It doesn't matter what else the organization does successfully. If the clients are uncomfortable with their interactions with the employee or team, then they won't be happy and they may not return for more business or refer more people. Client evaluations have similar problems and sometimes they are subjective, but usually they are pretty good. Self-evaluations are pretty good. Virtually everyone has informally evaluated how they perceive how they are doing on the job, whether they are actually formally asked to do so or not. With the MBO method, the consulting team recommends that they do self-evaluations as part of their total evaluation package. Most evidence shows that self-assessments tend to overestimate the individual's ability to do a job, and that can be troublesome. But small group evaluations are pretty good as well. The client should perform an internal group evaluation to determine how well the group met the client's needs, and this evaluation, when combined with the evaluation the client expressed, provides a clearer picture of how well the team performed, as well as the quality of interactions. In conclusion, the consulting team believes that management by objectives along with the 360-degree evaluations is the right performance appraisal mix for impact traction. Since the organization will be working on a case-by-case basis with various different clients until project completion, upon completion of the project with the client, it is recommended to conduct evaluations with both the client organization and between the groups of employees involved. Thank you.
Wow. Let's see. His question to you, and I think you guys have covered it. If I understand, here's his question. He'll probably try to use an appreciative inquiry, focus on learning and performance. So I think you guys have covered that. Let me just make a comment, let you guys add to it. If you do MBO and you sit down with an employee at the end of the time period and you say, how well did we do? What can we do better? You're not saying anything bad about the employee. You're just saying, and you're taking the I word out. Most performance appraisals, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, and it gets more personal. MBO is not personal. It's what do we do? How can we do it better? So I think, while I'm understanding this question correctly, you guys have probably covered it. Anyway, any thoughts about his question about appreciative inquiry? I think you've covered it.
Yeah, I thought we kind of covered it as well. From what I'm reading online, looking up the appreciative inquiry part,
What's
is that
it
it kind of, so it just talks about how it's more focusing on strengths rather than weaknesses, and all about, like you said, not harping on like what's being done bad or could be improved. It's more about what are we doing well. And it seems to me like it was kind of what I said about communication, how the process should be more of a two-way conversation. It's not essentially like, this is what you need to do, this is what you're doing wrong, you need to do these better. It's more like, you're doing this well, you could improve on these things, but it's also the employee saying, okay, I see that I could improve on this, but I also kind of need this from you, or more resources in this case, to help me do what you're asking to do better. So, I mean, I feel like it's all just kind of, it's more of a group process, not really a group process, but like you think together. It's not as more one-sided is what it sounds like to me.
I think you covered it. Awesome. All right. I think we do MBO right. I think it's the same thing as this appreciative inquiry. Here's where the client likes, here's what the client didn't like. Let's work as a team to get it better. All right. Here we have one last group, compensation group. So you guys have got it. Go ahead.
Okay, so compensation. So compensation is very important because the whole idea of a business is to make money. And so obviously in order to do that, you need good people, but in order to get good people, you need a very good and competitive compensation plan. So if it'll load.
Looks like it's still loading. Is it really big, Trevor?
No, it shouldn't be.
You may want to go back out and try in again. I love technology when it works. There you go.
There, I'll just share it there.
All right, good. Nice and clear.
So first, a couple types of compensation is longevity pay, which is based off of seniority and how long the person has been with the company rather than their performance. That one we did not recommend because it is a startup. And so you need good people coming in, and it's a startup, so you really don't base any, can't have anything on seniority. Next, you can have skill based. That's one of the ones we did recommend. One of the reasons is because for what he's trying to do, since it does revolve around the technology and then also the counseling part of it, you need really highly skilled people to operate that and make your business successful. Above market pay, that is one we did not recommend because right now as a startup, your funds are very limited. And so you really can't afford to pay people above what the market is saying you should pay them at. So we recommended a skill-based pay method, or in the beginning, he can use a market-based pay. And then as he goes along and becomes a big corporation, then we can move to like point or factor method.
So for the wage issues, we decided that one of the main wage issues is how Impraction actually wants to pay its employees and whether or not they can afford. So like Trevor said in the beginning, since they are a startup, their resources are very limited. So what are some of their options going forward from that? Since they do need, like he said, higher skilled people to work for the company. Also, they need to look at which employees are more essential to the starting of the company versus which ones he can acquire as they go along. Also, equal pay needs to be considered for all of the employees who are in the same category and who are kind of like hired on at the same time or same compensation for them as well, not just equal pay, but same like compensation options. And also wage compression is a big thing. So that would mean like he hires somebody early on and he pays them a certain amount. And then as he progresses with his company and gets bigger, maybe he hires on newer people and they're making a similar amount to what the senior employees are making. Then he has to watch out for that as he grows. He's also, rewarding the people who started the business with him since the beginning. Some of the legal implications, it was kind of hard to find like a lot of things just because they are based out of Canada, but a few things that I did find, obviously Canada has different minimum wages depending on what region they're operating from. I think it'd be a little bit difficult just because they are online. So he would have to, depending on the region where he is set his company in, he would have to follow those minimum wage laws. And the legal laws for regarding the hours of work, I believe theirs are pretty similar to ours, the 40 hours, and then, anything past that is considered overtime. They also have healthcare laws that are very strict over there. He would have to look into that. And like he was saying, he would also have to include that as part of the compensation plan for his employees. The time off, including family leave and vacation, that would also be a part of the compensation plan. And it's just something that makes, because he doesn't have a lot of money, it's something that can make his offer look a little bit more tempting to these higher skilled employees that he's wanting to get for his company. He also has to make sure that he's following the tax laws and the regulations, not just for his specific country, but for his like region, his state, for that specific time.
So as part of the thing he mentioned, he wanted to do bonus and then stock options. So for the first select group of employees, he wants to have the option for them to become investors by trading their salary for the first couple of years for stock options. Now that's something that he will only do for select employees because he wants the employees to believe in him and his company as, or them to believe in him and his company as much as he does. And so it'll be offered select, and so then they can be investors throughout that. Bonuses should be given at least once a year, and even though it is a startup and a small business, he should still consider giving bonuses, because even small bonuses go a long way in an employee's eyes, and also it can help them tremendously. So then there's 4 types of compensation. Base pay, which then you can do wage versus salary, which that's very critical to compensation and the whole program of it, because are they going to be full-time salary employees, part-time, where they're making a specific wage? He also needs to consider wage and salary add-ons, which does include your overtime, which typically would be over the 40 hours, the different shifts, premium pay, and then just for different hours that they may work, incentive pays and variable pays of paying for performance, and then also some benefits of indirect compensation that provides value to employees, such as that healthcare and whatnot.
So a little bit about expectancy theory. We recommended, or we talked about was the behavior is motivated by anticipated results or consequences. For instance, people will work harder with a chance that the additional work will be compensated or rewarded. Expectancy theory does have 3 segments: hope, instrumentality, and valence. Hope is a person's conviction that exertion will prompt the expected presentation objectives. Instrumentality is the belief that an individual will get an ideal result if the performance expectations are met. This mirrors the individual's belief that in the event that if I achieve this, I will get that. And valence is the unique value an individual puts on a specific result. Factors related with the person's valence are needs, objectives, inclinations, values, sources of inspiration, and the quality of person's inclination for a specific result. Expectancy theory, when appropriately followed, can assist managers with seeing how people are inspired to pick among different behavioral options. Next slide. Equity theory is based on the possibility that people are persuaded by fairness. In simple terms, the theory states that if an individual recognizes a disparity among themselves and a peer, they will change the work that they do to make the circumstances reasonable in their eyes. So for instance, like if somebody is doing the same work as somebody else, but somebody is working harder than them, they feel like, oh, I don't have to work as hard because they're putting in the extra work, so I don't have to. And then inputs are characterized as those things that an individual does so to get an output, and outputs are the outcome an individual gets because of their contributions to the association. Next slide. A little bit more. Manager is liable for a group, then they have to share these key points. Individuals measure the total of all contributions against all outputs. Also, unfortunately, a person's values will be utilized when they measure fairness. So 2 workers on indistinguishable compensation may each observe the fairness of their circumstance differently. Another one, in spite of the fact that it's reasonable that more ranking staff procure fundamentally more, there are limits. And last but not least, a worker who accepts they are overcompensated may build their exertion. So now I'm gonna pass it off to Paul.
So job evaluations are commonly used by larger organizations to determine the relative value of each job in the organization. So due to Impact Traction's status as a startup, it's not going to be recommended for the early years. But you know, when they start getting to that 40 to 50 employee mark, they should probably start considering the following job evaluation systems. So doing job evaluations will just kind of ensure external and internal equity. So looking at the external approach, that's going to involve researching what other organizations are paying for the same or similar jobs. That process is going to ensure that you're paying employees based on market pricing and ensure that external equity. Internal approach is kind of using job evaluation to determine the worth of each position relative to other positions within the organization. So obviously that's going to ensure internal equity. Looking at the methods of job evaluation, there's the job ranking method, which is the process of ranking jobs in order from lowest to highest in terms of value to the company. So, you know, that's going to be the founder on top and obviously some of the lower scale positions towards the bottom. Point factor method is the second type of job evaluation, and that's going to attempt to be objective in form. And it's going to break down a job into components such as particular skills or abilities and assigning a number of points to each component based upon difficulty. And then lastly, the factor comparison method. That's going to aim to combine both the job ranking and the point factor methods to provide a more thorough job evaluation. So similar to the point factor method, it's going to assign points to compensable factors. However, the factor comparison method first identifies positions that are evaluated in a large number of organizations and can commonly be found in most pay surveys. So these benchmark positions are then analyzed in detail based upon compensable factors and ranked finally compared to other jobs in other organizations. And again, the primary method of determining the monetary value of a job is through analysis of compensable factors. Next slide. So this was kind of the pay system that we developed with kind of the analysis that we had got from ASH, as well as the work of other groups in the class. So looking at that first one, the co-founder, you're gonna want to start that at or below market-based salary, kind of like we touched on earlier. You're gonna want to offer competitive stock options, the basic healthcare, which is covered by the government, and then you're going to want to offer pharmaceutical and dental. Looking at that core team members, again, it's going to be at or below base salary, non-voting stock options, basic healthcare, and again, the pharmaceutical and dental. Advisors, that's going to be unpaid, but to kind of incentivize good work, you're going to want to offer non-voting stock options. Collaborators, that will be a one-time payment. However, if collaboration continues, those collaborators can kind of be folded into the core system of employees. Finally, contributors, so that's going to be annual fixed fee. So that's just a one-time payment. Kind of concluding and wrapping everything up, we had all agreed that it's important for Impact Traction to attract and retain qualified employees. So every employee should reflect the relative value of each job and should be externally and internally consistent and fair. And that's all we got.
All right, hey, great conclusion. Let's see, his comments were let's see, I'll read it to you. I have learned, he gave you guys a great comment. I've learned the most from the compensation section. Thank you. I also want to appreciate you have spent some time introducing me to the different options and opportunities in such a succinct manner. I agree with your suggestions. I will think more about the 4 types of compensation, how it can be a little more creative. All right. Hey, good job, guys. Would you guys send me your PowerPoints?